So, folks, we gotta talk about Brett Cooper. Brett Cooper, one of the up-and-coming folks among the Republicans, among the conservative wing, and she's in a bit of hot water lately because she, doesn't seem to be as on board with this whole mainstream conservative thing that's going on. Let's take a look at what I mean by that. Let's jump into this. She put out a video recently titled, "What Happened to America First?" Let's take a look.
Happy Thursday, my fellow idiots. How are you all doing? Gosh, surely we are not doing as well as the foreign workers and hundreds of thousands of Chinese students that Donald Trump is importing to the United States.
Yes. The main problem of Donald Trump being too friendly to immigrants. As we're all aware, everyone is just so angry about how friendly Donald Trump and his administration is being to supposed immigrants to this country. Is that even true? Donald Trump is allowing a certain number of Chinese immigration, specifically for students, to build up different skill sets. That part is true. And Brett Cooper is just really fucking mad that people who are not white are being let into the country. Because again, a lot of these people are just racist clowns.
Only we were smarter. Maybe he wouldn't have to do that. Sorry.
Again, I've noted it before, but I do appreciate the imagery of her show essentially being someone uncrumpling a piece of paper that was thrown in the garbage and then crumpling it back up again and throwing it in the garbage. I do appreciate the narrative structure communicated in that show intro.
Sorry, everyone, for that intro. I woke up feeling sassy today. It is chilly.
Yo, girl, same. I woke up feeling hella sassy.
Am fed up, hence why I am here in my sweatsuit, and we are ready to...
You're there in your sweatsuit? Girl, you're wearing a sweatshirt. That ain't no suit. What are you talking about? I do have to say, one thing that makes me mad about Brett Cooper is that her hair makes me upset that my hair is just like chaos.
Rant. I am over it. I am done. I want to go back to last fall when we were excited, when we were hopeful, when we all thought that we were going to be entering the golden age of America.
Yeah, back when you were morons and saps that were easily duped into electing one of the most obvious charlatans of all time. Yeah, I understand. You'd want to go back to that.
And yet here we are, in possibly the worst week of any Trump administration. And in case you need a recap, I'm going to pull up this tweet from Wall Street Maverick. It has not been a good week for policy ideas floated by the White House. 50-year mortgages, $2,000 tariff stimmy checks, Americans can't do jobs, more H-1Bs, 600,000 Chinese students keeping liberal universities alive, guys.
Yeah, it's almost like Donald Trump's economic policies were bad and dog shit and not good. Almost like the entire premise of conservative economic policy is deeply and irretrievably flawed. But no, now is not the time for introspection. Now is the time for just being slightly upset.
And don't worry, the damage control is already happening, so let's talk about it. Before we do, though, make sure that
When is this video from? This video is from 1 day ago. So, no, it's actually during the emails.
Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because I know the majority of you have not subscribed, so click that button and make sure to ring that notification bell so you stay up to date on all of our episodes. All right, here we go. So yes, yesterday we talked about the mortgages. We talked about...
I thought this was the girl that shat her pants from The Voice. I don't watch enough of The Voice to know who you're talking about. But I don't find it impossible that Brett Cooper has Brett Poopered herself.
The endless debt, and we talked about the stimulus checks that were in that tweet. But that was not all, hence why we are back today with another rant. Because in that same Now, unfortunately, infamous interview with Laura Ingraham, Trump decided to come out and tell us all that American workers, the same American workers struggling to find and keep jobs right now, struggling to stay afloat in this economy, that actually those American workers, they just aren't good enough. And that is why the H-1B visa program is so important.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there, and that's H-1B visas specifically target workers in fields that Americans aren't qualified to fill. Like, they are specifically targeted to, folks that have a higher degree of education and are going to be brought in to work for lower wages for these big tech companies, generally speaking. And so when we're talking about like, oh, Americans just aren't good enough, it's because like you can't just go from being like a clerk at 7-Eleven to being a software engineer at Apple. Like that's not a transition that most people can make. It's called skill flight, Brett. Exactly, Sam and Moose. Like generally speaking, America has drawn a lot of skilled workers who want to come and live here and work here. And the fact that Donald Trump has kind of upended that apple cart has ruined the ability of the United States to attract workers from other countries, because who would want to come here and run the risk of being like roughed up by the American Gestapo that Donald Trump has set up? You know, it's a double-edged sword here, and they're experiencing the other edge of the sword that they were just hoping would never cut them.
Just take a listen.
Does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't.
I do got to say, I do appreciate that Brett Cooper's image is on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, giving us kind of an oppositional layout. I like that. I think it's good, actually.
Flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have.
God, he looks like such dog shit, and he's just like, nah, Americans are stupid idiots. They're stupid idiots. They can't do the job. That's why you gotta bring in the specialists. You gotta bring in the H-1B visa folks. You gotta bring them in. If you don't bring them in, you can't do the job. Dude is starting to mumble like fucking Popeye from the 1930s.
Talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
Well, actually, you can. Okay, that's a bad example, because you can actually take someone from the unemployment line and put them in a factory and have them make missiles, because generally, if they're working in a factory, they're going to be able to do that. You know, they're going to be able to do a relatively simple task to make missiles. That's why they would be on a factory line.
Do it before.
Good point, Laura. But
Well, Laura's point is largely that, like, how did we do it before? And that's because before we were doing it without robotics. Before we were doing it by just bringing in some guy with a wrench who would, like, quickly ratchet a bolt to be tight on a missile and then do it on the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one until they were done with their shift, right? And now we have robotic parts that do all of those steps. And so instead of individual like workers pulling a wrench handle down, you need workers that are capable of running like a suite of robotics all at one time and servicing them. And that takes some pretty specialized fucking education, actually.
let's go back to what Trump just said there. She said, don't we have American talent? He goes, no, actually we don't. We don't have American talent. And he said that right after he said that the affordability crisis was just a...
What I find interesting about Brett Cooper, especially lately, is that she is doing something unique in the conservative space, which is breaking away from Donald Trump. She is building up a brand identity as a conservative, separate from Donald Trump and the Trump administration, largely because she's aware that she's going to outlast the Trump administration. She's going to outlast it. And she's also positioning herself to be a prominent conservative voice that has been correct on these issues since before Trump was in office, right? Like since before, like the reckoning has been had at the hand of Epstein or whatever, like she is separating herself deliberately right now because it helps her build her brand separate from being a Trump sycophant. And that is valuable capital for someone like Brett Cooper.
A figment of our imagination. It is a con. We have just made it up in our minds. He has no idea what we're talking about when we say that things are not affordable. I mean, like, what is happening here? How was he allowed?
A lot of conservatives are breaking away from Trump and the AIPAC thing. Yeah, because like Trump and the Epstein shit, it's political fucking poison. A lot of folks don't want to be left holding that hot potato, and like, understandably so.
To do this interview, was he not prepped for it? Like, it's kind of incredible, unfortunately, how a single interview can just blow up an entire political base because that.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier today. Fish fists. Marjorie Taylor Greene is also breaking from Donald Trump. A lot of these politicians and pundits are, weighing which way the wind is blowing and deciding, yeah, it's time to abandon ship, which says a lot,
Is exactly what is happening right now. Barefoot Student posted this and said, the Gen Z stare when they hear Trump wants more H-1Bs to build missiles. America has no talent. 600,000 Chinese students is just business. And the economy is the best ever.
Man, it's fucking crazy because Sydney Sweeney basically just said, I don't give a shit if I represent white supremacy in that interview. And like, conservatives are just like, fuck yeah, queen. Yeah, queen. Yes, queen. Stand that white supremacy. Who cares if you're spouting eugenics bullshit? Who cares? Queen. And like, they're just running with the meme. It's wild. It's fucking wild.
In one interview. Literally, that has been my face the entire week as I am scrolling on X. Meanwhile, as the MAGA America First conservative base is going up in flames on out there.
Sorry, I did skip ahead. I do hate that I like her sweatshirt.
Said, dear Americans, you're too dumb to build anything, so we need to import 1 trillion Indians to fill the jobs in this cup. He said, like,
Jesus
you're
Christ,
saying
what?
What is happening to build missiles? America has no talent. 600,000 Chinese students is just business, and the economy is the best ever. All in one interview. Literally, that has been my face the entire week as I am scrolling on X. Meanwhile, as the...
Oh, God. Old Owl Hooten, I've played this out several times on stream. Epstein is absolutely going to sink Donald Trump. My entire thinking is that if we see a vote on Epstein and we see a veto-proof majority in the House next week, like it's gonna fucking explode the Senate. And if we see that happen, if we get a veto-proof majority in the Senate, Donald Trump is fucking toast. People don't want to associate with a kid fucker or people who defended a kid fucker. And like, it's political poison, and they're gonna jump. They're gonna knife him in the back the second it becomes viable for them. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens next week.
The MAGA America First conservative base is going up in flames.
Stock up on that
Trump
popcorn, exactly.
is spending his time writing letters to the president of Israel, asking him to pardon Netanyahu. Like, I'm sorry, is this really the priority right now? You have a major PR crisis. Your base is absolutely furious with you. You're saying that you don't think Americans have any talent, and you're focusing on this? Like, who is advising you? One person wrote this as a response, and it just cracked me up. He said, dear Americans, you're too dumb to build anything, so we need to import 1 trillion Indians to fill the jobs in this country. We're also going to import 600,000 Chinese students per year because we can't afford to have some colleges that Americans don't want to attend go out of business. You'll be pleased to know that I'm rolling out a 50-year mortgage so you can essentially just rent your home from a bank. You'll still have to cover repairs. Isn't that a generous thing that I'm doing for you retards? Now, it's time to focus on more important matters. Israel's intra-political conflicts. Best, Donald J. Trump.
I gotta be honest, like, I know it's being done for the most bigoted possible reasons, but Brett Cooper breaking from Trump is an indicator of just how fucked Donald Trump is right now. The fact that this young, future-oriented conservative pundit is breaking from Donald Trump is an indication that Donald Trump has fucked up beyond the acceptable limits of the fuck up zone that conservatives typically have, right? Like, conservatives typically have an incredibly wide fuck up zone. And Donald Trump has officially used up the entirety of it. Like, she can't not break.
Or to have some colleges that Americans don't want to attend go out of business. You'll be pleased to know that I'm rolling out a 50-year mortgage.
Oh, yeah, no, Sexia, these people are more ideologically fucked up. But also, it means that the current conservative order is crumbling. And I would argue that groiperism is not the mainstream of where most conservatives are at. And most conservatives in this country right now are not ready to make the leap from where they're at to just outright, tee-hee, I'm a Nazi, groiperism. You know, they're not ready to do that. And that works in favor of basically everyone in every faction that is left of being a fucking Nazi. And I'm here for that. Because I want to do whatever it is in my power to do to ensure that this country does not fall to fascism. That's kind of where I'm at. And I think that this type of maneuvering indicates that we are in actually a pretty decent position if we are just good with our local organizing and we are able to leverage that into the general election in 2028. And so that's why I keep telling you guys, get involved with your DSA, get involved with your local Dems, get involved with your local city council, right? Like, get involved with your local organizing apparatus and start getting ready for 2028. Not just 2026, 2028. Because we need to start dealing with the potential political fallout of Donald Trump just absolutely fucking cratering. And, I think that will benefit all of us if we do.
Mortgage, you can essentially just rent your home from a bank. You'll still have to cover repairs. Isn't that a generous thing that I'm doing for you retards? Now, it's time to focus on more important matters. Israel's intra-political conflicts. Best Donald J. Trump. Like, I'm not trying to just pile on here, but like, come on, we're tired. We are exhausted. And Americans having no talent.
Eric McKitten says, yeah, my mom and dad are Trump Republicans 3 times now, but they raised me to hate racism. So I know they aren't ready to embrace Nazism just to own the libs. Fuck yeah, Eric McKitten. Hell yeah. That's what I mean. And Amber Brains, I don't trust the bulwark on a lot of things, but I do trust the bulwark to understand conservatives. And I do trust them to understand that if Donald Trump falls below 37% in the polls, he's fucking done. I do trust that. So I'm here for it.
Was simply the cherry on top. Because what really has people up in arms right now is this issue of the H-1B visas, aka the program that floods foreign workers into our country and takes American jobs. And this
takes American jobs that Americans are not educated enough to do. That's why the H-1B visa program exists. There aren't American workers who are educated to do those jobs. Hence why the H-1Bs bring in foreign workers who are educated to do those jobs. That's the entire premise of the program.
Has been a hot button issue because as young graduates around my age are struggling to find jobs as they're trying to fight against AI and automation.
Remind me, why did Brett Cooper leave the Daily Wire? Basically because she was doing well enough on her own to support an individual career at a higher level than whatever salary the Daily Wire was paying her. And, you know, she's right. Like, she has 1.6 million subscribers. This video alone from yesterday has 307,000 views. She's making good money doing this show. So, like, it doesn't surprise me that she did this.
The last thing they want is to also be fighting against skilled and cheap labor being imported from China and India. I mean, guys, this is the issue that effectively ended Vivek's entire political career and his relevance when last Christmas he posted this. I'm sure you guys remember it, but let's just read through. Let's just walk down memory lane to see how out of touch this was. He said, the reason why top tech companies often hire foreign...
Well, yeah, no, she left because of money, but Asen, not because of shekels, but because she can genuinely make more money than whatever the Daily Wire was paying her as a salary based on what she makes off of YouTube alone. Okay? Like, just off of, to be transparent for a second, off of YouTube ads alone, if I were to extrapolate my size to her size, like, she's, like, sorry, if you extrapolated 5 times my size, right? You get to 100,000, right? If you extrapolated 10 times beyond that, you'd get to 1 million. So let's just say 15 times where I'm at. My ads alone, you know, I do pay an editor, right? But if I didn't pay my editor, if I made 15 times what I currently make off of just views on my content, that would be $15,000 a month. Like, she's making really good money by herself here. And probably a good deal more than whatever the Daily Wire was willing to pay her. And that's not to mention any of the other side projects she's doing. That's not to mention, like, how many views she's getting on her videos per upload, you know, whatever. Like, her videos get more views than anything Dave Rubin has made lately. Let's put it that way.
Born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. And we're going to get to that because it might be interesting to know what happened in the 90s anyway. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers.
Oh man, Vivek. Oh, Vivek, are you sad that you weren't the prom king? Oh no! That's the most loser shit imaginable, dude! Oh my god! Dude! And Finner, yeah, American corporations do want to prioritize H-1B applicants because they are easier to control and have less rights than American workers. 1,000%. That being said, it's also that they can't have a ready pool available of these workers to choose from. You know?
But what if you can do both? I'm not even going to get into his tweet right now, but guys, that single post, it ended him. It was completely tone deaf when, for years, young Americans like myself had been told, go into STEM. That is where the money is. That is where we need you to go. Learn to code. This is the future. And young Americans listened to that. So many young Americans, like we were talking about yesterday, did everything right.
Oh, Brett Cooper. Did you fall for the millennial trap again? Did y'all fall for the millennial trap again? They all told us to go get bachelor's degrees, and we did. And you know what? We got fucked over. And y'all were like, oh, we just have to go into STEM. And you did, and you got fucked over too. Like, okay, but like the issue here is capitalism. It's the commodification of us as an end product of the education system. Like, that's the issue, right? But something tells me you're not going to take an issue with that.
Hundreds of thousands of students coming into the workforce every single year with health degrees, science degrees, engineering degrees, computer science degrees, and they are getting passed up for cheaper foreign labor. And Vivek's rationality is that they spent too much time focusing on the prom, and so therefore we can't get rid of H-1B visa program, which we know is abused. And if you don't believe me, take it from Palmer Luckey, who is the founder of Oculus.
Of course, there's so much
Yeah, take it from this guy. This guy's a very serious individual. Look at him with his stupid fucking goatee and his stupid fucking button-up shirt. Yeah, this is a guy you can take seriously. He understands tech. Can I just say, like, I have an Oculus. As a video game journalist, I fucking bought one of his dog shit pieces of tech. And I can tell you, as interesting as it was, it did not bring in a new generation of technology. Okay? This is a guy who saw the Virtual Boy and said, yeah, let's do that, but more of it. And then fucking failed. And luckily, he was lucky enough to be bought out by several different tech companies in order to make a handy profit off of his involvement. That's it. He's not a smart businessman. He's not a great, technologist. He's got nothing. But let's all listen to him. He's just a guru and a half.
H-1B abuse. You would not believe what I saw when I was in Silicon Valley. It is insane. It's obviously a program to try and replace U.S. workers with basically slave labor that can't ever escape.
Slave labor that is cheaper. How can young Americans expect to compete with that when that is the alternative? And by the way, what Palmer is laying out there is so far from what the H-1B visa program was created for.
Just as an FYI, just in case anyone is curious, he was on a Time cover back in 2015, a Time magazine cover. And he looked like this fucking loser. Just as an FYI. Yeah, feet and everything. Look at him, guys. It's the fucking future. Do you see him floating? It's the future.
For what it was intended to do. Because when it was introduced in 1990, Vivek, I don't know if that correlates, I just think that is interesting, but when it was introduced in 1990, it was supposed to be a temporary solution.
Anon-Cat.
But as we all have come to understand now, nothing in government is temporary. If they say that it is temporary, just expect it to be around for decades at this point. But the purpose, when it was created, was for employers to be able to hire skilled foreign laborers temporarily for jobs that they could not find Americans to do, or jobs that Americans could not do yet, that they were not trained in. And at the time, those...
Yeah, exactly. That's the purpose of the program. Now, of course, it has been weaponized by capitalists, the kinds of people who support Donald Trump, in order to essentially create a slave underclass of trained and skilled workers that cannot complain or unionize or otherwise advocate for themselves without losing their jobs and losing their positions in society.
Those were usually jobs in STEM. Now, fast forward over 40 years, this system is completely abused. It is no longer used in emergent temporary situations, and it is often preferred because, like Palmer said, the labor is cheaper. And it has allowed businesses to import millions of immigrants into our already bloated country where Americans are consistently getting the short end of the stick. That is what we voted to fight against. That is what we were expecting and wanting Trump to push back against. And so now, 11 months into this administration, we have Donald Trump digging his heels in and saying, no, actually, we do need this program. And it's so disappointing to hear him say that, to say that America...
Yeah, he's saying that because he fucking sent ICE to arrest a bunch of Korean people who were here on visas to help set up auto manufacturing plants. And ICE arrested all of them and deported them, and it turns out that becomes one of the biggest stories of the year in South Korea, because the South Korean press is accurately reporting that these people were tortured in ICE custody. And it turns out that, hey, South Korean engineers don't want to come to the United States anymore, so you need to actually go and find engineers from other countries who can do the very specific kinds of engineering jobs required to set up auto manufacturing plants in the United States. That's just one example, and Donald Trump fucked it up. All right? He fucked it up and he can't fix it. And so he's trying to desperately cling to the idea that, well, maybe someone with an H-1B can come in and fix this, but he already fucked it up. People don't want to come here on H-1Bs anymore because no protection is actually given on the H-1Bs for being just out of nowhere seized by ICE, tortured, and sent back to your country of origin. People don't actually want to roll that dice because life isn't so good here that they want to take a risk that they're just going to build a life here and have it all ripped away by the whims of a fucking lunatic in the office of in the Oval Office.
Americans have no talent, that we need these foreign workers, because Trump once stood against this program for the very reasons that I just laid out.
I know the H-1B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers. And second of all, I think it's very important to say, well, I'm a businessman and I have to do what I have to do, and it's sitting there waiting for you, but it's very bad. It's very bad for business in terms of, it's very bad for our workers, and it's unfair for our workers, and we should end it.
I miss this Trump. He was aware. He was honest. He was saying this is not good for America. It is not good.
He wasn't sundowning from dementia. Yeah, I'm sure he was a very different person before he started doing that.
For workers, for American workers, it benefits businesses because I'm getting cheap labor. I'm using it because, the loophole exists, the program exists, but it shouldn't. And if we want a better country, if we want a better economy, if we want a more empowered, fruitful American workforce, this should be eliminated. He literally said we should not have this program. And it also sounds a lot like what J.D. Vance said just a couple months ago.
I've heard a lot of the criticisms, the fear that we're going to have a brain drain. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, the American space program, the program that was the first to put a human being on.
Yeah, man. Distron, I wouldn't want to come here if, the threat of being deported was being dangled over my head by these clowns.
On the surface of the moon was built by American citizens, some German and Jewish scientists who had come over during World War II, but mostly by American citizens who had built an incredible space program with American talent. This idea that American citizens don't have the talent to do great things, that you have to import a foreign class of servants.
Dude, you've already undermined your example by talking about how, we imported a bunch of German and Jewish scientists for sure. But Americans can do great things too. Obviously Americans can do great things, but you still had to bring scientists in who covered gaps in the knowledge base, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have had to bring them in the first place, right?
And professors to do these things. I just reject that. I actually think we invest in our own people, we can do a lot of good. You've heard that criticism in particular as the president has talked about cracking down on foreign student visas.
Yeah, also, we continue to invest in our own population. That's what public education is for, man. Come on.
And their abuses, but I think that's actually an opportunity for American citizens to really flourish.
I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people, but I completely agree with what J.D. Vance said there. So what happened? What the hell happened? Because now we have our president sitting down for interviews saying, no, actually Americans aren't good enough. We don't have the talent. We can't build something out of nothing. We have to import the talent. And in that interview, right after he said Americans have no talent, he
Sorry, J.D., the couch chose the bear.
gave the example of people not knowing how to build batteries, and therefore we need H-1B visa workers to build them. That is why they are here. We need their skills, their talent. We need to bring them over. Okay, interesting. But tell me why then we have pages and pages listing the H-1B visa recipients, and the majority of them work in tech and have jobs like supply chain analysts, supply chain managers, supply chain specialists. I'm sorry.
Because supply chains are notoriously difficult to manage. I'm sorry, have you ever tried to manage the supply chains that stretch across the entire face of the earth, Brett?
That's not building batteries. Are you saying that Americans can't do that we are way too dumb?
No, it's not that Americans are incapable. It's that it takes a very specialized set of education in order to achieve the skill set necessary to do those jobs. It's not that Americans are too dumb. It's that it requires a very specialized set of skills. And if you don't have that specialized set of skills, then you can't do that job effectively, because it turns out supply chains are incredibly, incredibly complicated all the time.
To be supply chain analysts? Like, is that too much for us dumbasses? Like, is that basically what you're saying? I mean, come on, there's an obvious solution here. Send the kids to Grand Canyon University and they will be ready to go. And Grand Canyon—
Oh my God. Fuck you. A sponsored segment in the middle. Let's go. Yeah, all right. Cool.
Back to the main point of this episode. Obviously, this interview with Laura Ingraham, all of the stuff about H-1B, it caused a massive uproar online. Again, like the entire base just going up in flames, especially because it came on the heels of him saying that he would not be suspending the program that imports hundreds of thousands of Chinese students into our universities, because without them, some of the colleges would go under, and therefore we have to protect them because that is just good business. No, I'm sorry, that is not good business. The government should not be bailing out these universities. We need to let the free market do what the free market is going to do. If these—
Yeah, you know, what could possibly, what's the worst case scenario that runs downstream of universities failing? Yeah, no, dog, just let the universities fail. Nothing bad would happen. Just let them collapse, dog. Like, you understand, Brett, that like when you're talking about training people up, if suddenly a university system collapses, they can no longer accredit those people who are in the university system, right? And on top of that, you are creating an increasingly unstable educational system in which, like, people become less and less sure that investing their time in these, you know, university level programs is actually going to net them the degrees and expertise that they need in order to do these jobs. In which case, suddenly, folks are taking a bigger and bigger gamble about which programs actually allow them to succeed.
colleges that are every day screwing over young Americans if they can't—
Look, you stupid idiots, just let the universities die and then get your education, I don't know, someplace else.
Survive without hiking up their prices and forcing students to take out insane student loans. If they can't survive without the hundreds of thousands of Chinese students that we are bringing in every single year, then I'm sorry, they should close their doors. Goodbye. Don't let the door—
Yeah, just, close all the educational institutions in the United States, you stupid morons. Of course.
or hit you on the way out. Like, seriously, that is how I feel. And also, it is just very ironic to me that on one side, we are all so dumb. We are all not capable. We have no talent, but also people are coming here to be educated. But who knows? Maybe they're just coming here to be educated in lesbian dance theory and not in battery manufacturing. Whatever. Anyway, the point being, this interview, it blew up for all of the wrong reasons. And now the admin is working overtime to do damage control and get everything back on track. So in response, they sent out Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent back out onto Fox to set the record straight. And this is what he said.
The president's point here is we can't snap our fingers and say, you're going to learn how to build ships overnight. We want to bring semiconductor industry back to—
Yeah, obviously you have to build up people who know how to build semiconductors. You have to have people who are actually capable of learning those lessons in order to build up manufacturing domestically. And not only that, you also have to have like the physical resources, the material in order to make the semiconductors. It's a whole thing. All right.
the U.S. There are going to be big facilities in Arizona. So I think the president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the U.S. workers. Then they can go home. The U.S. workers fully take over.
They go home. Okay. Hopefully that works out based on our previous immigration policies, based on what we are dealing with now. I'm sorry if I don't trust this idea that they will simply go home after 5 or 7 years.
Okay, but why do you want them to go home after 5 to 7 years? Why don't you want highly educated people who are able to, like, make ends meet, live in this country? Like, I genuinely don't understand this method of thinking. Like, oh yeah, no, we want them here to train us how to do jobs good, but when they're done training us, we want them to leave. But why? You could just let them stay and build their own lives, actually, as like American citizens or American residents. Well, yeah, obviously the answer here is because people like Brett Cooper are racist, but I would still appreciate some attempt to articulate a reason, but they never bother to do so, you know?
Years. Because again, temporary doesn't really mean much when it comes to the federal government. Anyway, that statement by the Treasury Secretary created a whole other debate online because it is true that there is a tech race that America needs to compete in. It also is true that for decades we have sent our manufacturing overseas and that America cannot just jump back in overnight. That is a fact. And so for many, this rationale, everything that Scott Bessent is saying, made sense even if Trump was laying it out in all the wrong ways and said all the wrong things. They were like, okay, now I sort of get it. Like one person commented and said, this is how you rebuild the nation's workforce. Another person said, brutal truth. You do not instantly recover from more than 5 decades of very insidious people deliberately dumbing down your academia, offshoring most of your vital industries, and just turn around and bring all of that back and have more than enough highly skilled and trained workers ready to just step in. The great trade tariff reset Trump is doing is bringing those industries back here.
Can we just like stop for a second and ask, who are the very insidious people deliberately dumbing down academia? Like, who are you saying is doing this, Brett? Because you're quoting this tweet by Brian Cates as if it's gospel. So who is doing this? Because you're not saying who, and you're just implying who, and I would love for you to say it. You know? Do I dye my eyebrows? I don't. I do makeup, though. But I don't dye my eyebrows.
But is it anti-American to recognize that the U.S. workforce isn't quite where it needs to be to make an instant rebound once those industries are back in the U.S.? Now, again, I understand that. But the way that Trump laid this out, the flippant way that he responded to Laura Ingraham, just saying that there is no American talent, obviously that was going to rub Americans the wrong way. And therefore, for other people, this still just seems like a cope. Like 5 Times August said, we had zero experience housewives making aircrafts and tanks in World War II, and POTUS acts like we can't train Americans to make batteries. This is very...
Well, again, because battery factories are largely automated now and require a set of educational attainment in order to run said factories, because while factories are more efficient now, you need a higher level of education in order to make them function.
Fair. It is historically accurate. And this is also what J.D. Vance was talking about in that clip that we just watched. Now, I also want to read this. I think that this is probably the most balanced take that I've read. This person said, that's what we need, but the H-1B program is rife with abuse and does not bring in only the best and the brightest. It should be scrapped. And so should most other work visas. We also need strict control so that they don't just stick around much easier with fewer people.
Hats off to the New York City DSA. Y'all have done a wonderful job. Congratulations to you and yours, TP. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
We should not just be importing thousands to millions of people and just shoving them in different jobs, allowing American workers to be passed over. If you do want to bring people in to train them temporarily, it needs to be a small selection of people for a very specific purpose, for a very set amount of temporary time, a certain amount of time. And so I guess my question is, and I think the question on a lot of people's minds, based on what I'm reading in the comments, is there a way that we can do away with this program that has been abused, that has strayed so far away from its original?
I believe Mamdani is the real deal, and I appreciate all the work you and yours did in order to pull the campaign off. It was genuinely incredibly impressive and inspiring, and I hope that here in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis and St. Paul, we can pull off similar things in the future. So understand your work is a huge inspiration to all of us across the country, and we all appreciate you here.
intent and still steer American labor and innovation in the right direction and get workers and industries the training that they do need, because we have abandoned that for decades. I don't know. I genuinely do not know the answer to that. I am not a specialist. I am not in government. These are just the things that I'm thinking. But to me, in order to solve this problem, it seems like it should be a totally new program, and that H-1B still does need to be scrapped and addressed so that Americans, especially young Americans, can get those damn supply chain analyst and manager jobs, because I have faith.
It takes, I've known people who get those jobs. They need to go to business school for like 4 to 6 years. You know, you need a bachelor's or a master's degree in order to get those logistics jobs. You can't just be like some schmuck off the street and get those jobs. Like, it requires specialized training and specialized knowledge, and you can't just get those jobs by being any old nobody. You gotta have the education to back yourself up. And like, I'm sorry, but the entire point of the H-1Bs is to have skilled workers readily available.
That us Americans are smart enough to do that. Hopefully we can convince Trump of that fact. And listen, if we do need help preparing people for those manufacturing and tech jobs, then let's turn our attention to education. Let's stop keeping failing universities afloat.
TP, don't sell yourself short, okay? We got a bunch of people who are working here in this community to try and get folks involved. And if you'd like to join our Discord, we have a DSA section. You can reach out to our Gamer G, who helps folks get connected to DSA all across the country. And maybe you can help us get some pointers or two about how to run successful candidates. Appreciate your input. One of my main things as a content creator is to try and get people to join DSA and make their local DSA as effective as New York City's was. So any insight you can grab for us would be very much appreciated.
Invest in trade schools and educators. And so again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I do think that there's truth on both sides of this argument. And I do think I understand what Trump was trying to communicate.
I really enjoy how much she's trivializing the skill set she's talking about here, right? Like, oh yeah, no, how hard can it be to transport a good from one side of the world to the other, Fivehead?
We should be investing in Americans. We should be investing in our workforce. And yes, that does mean educating and preparing them. But that also means ending the program that cuts them out of thousands and thousands.
Congrats on being a new father. It's one of the hardest things you can ever do. And you know what? Good luck to you. All right. And appreciate whatever insight you can grab for us, because we got a lot of new folks joining DSA just in this online community alone, and folks are looking for more guidance and assistance and would appreciate it from you.
Thousands of jobs. And this is something that Charlie was tweeting about just days before he was murdered. He knew the urgency of addressing H-1B because it and mass immigration directly impact.
Notice how like all of these clowns are invoking the name of Charlie Kirk to conveniently try and push their own goals and agendas. It's wild. It's wild shit. Is Brett Cooper advocating for public education? No. Media breakdown, perish the thought. Obviously, it must be all voucher based, of course.
Continues to impact the young people that he was speaking for. Again, just days before his assassination, he wrote, "This is the social compact breaking down. We need urgency to restore it. Number 1, mass deportations. Number 2, stop the..."
Who the fuck is she? She's basically a new generation of Ben Shapiro. So much so that people call her Femme Shapiro or Brett Pooper. She used to work for the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, but went independent because she's largely more successful on her own than she ever was with the Daily Wire.
H-1B scam, dramatically reduce legal immigration, that's important, end chain migration and the visa lottery, build 10 million homes for Americans, and crush the college cartel. Charlie was spot on. This is what we voted for. Cernovich hit the nail on the head, as he often does. I love him.
Oh boy, I love when conservative content creators name drop the guy who was the biggest advocate of Pizzagate, rather. 10 years ago. It's so cool. I love it. As a former game journalist who covered Gamergate, it's so fucking stupid to me that not 12. Yeah, 12 years later, I'm still talking about these clowns. I'm still talking about these clowns that like organized like the idea that Comet Ping Pong had a child sex slavery ring operated out of its basement. And the basement didn't even exist. There isn't a basement to this restaurant. And people showed up with guns and shot it up because they thought the pizza place was trafficking children. It's genuinely insane that we have to keep talking about this person, that he didn't get immediately discredited from the get-go by the fact that he pushed this shit. It's wild.
And he said Charlie Kirk was the last person who could walk into the Oval Office and speak on behalf of the base. Now it's all donors. I mean, as somebody who does feel like a bit of an outsider, like I don't know the Trump family, I don't know the administration, I've never been to the White House, never been in the Oval Office, like it does feel like that, especially when it came to being in touch with young people. But now, guys, we have Trump.
Yeah, you know, it used to be that if you got 1 million subscribers on YouTube as a conservative content creator, you could just go into the White House. Like, what?
Attacking his voters, advocating for importing students and labor, and Kristi Noem is on TV bragging about how they are fast-tracking legal immigration. Just watch.
We've sped up our process and added integrity to the visa programs, to green cards, to all of that, but also more people are becoming naturalized under this administration than ever before. More people are becoming citizens because we're not just streamlining and building some processes back into our immigration policies. We're also making sure that these individuals that are coming into our country and get that privilege, that they actually are here for the right reasons.
This is not what we need right now. Like, yes, the system needs reform. It has always needed reform. We do need real pathways for citizenship, but can we also just
Man, why? Like, I'm sorry, Brett Cooper, why aren't you focusing on that? Like, that's one of the rare situations where I'm suddenly like, yes, Brett Cooper, let's work together, right and left. Let's find a solution. Let's find a pathway to citizenship for the dreamers, for every single person who might find themselves in this country undocumented, but trying to build a life nonetheless. What is the pathway for citizenship there? How can they be saved? Let's figure that out. And like, Brett Cooper doesn't want to spend even a goddamn second of it during this to talk about how undocumented immigrants can be safe. Just get them all out.
Can we press pause? Like, that is all we're asking. Can we press pause? Can we stop bringing other people in until we figure out what the hell is going on and get our own country back on?
It's not that hard to figure out, Brett. Capitalists are bringing in cheap labor because they want to cut their costs. It's not difficult. Like, stop pretending like it's a difficult issue to figure out.
Track. Like, can we have stricter but clear immigration policies moving forward? Like, basically, every other country in the entire world, that is all we are asking for. All we are asking is for you to put Americans first. And I feel like that's not asking for much. And again, I know that Donald Trump is under massive amounts of pressure. All eyes are on him. I have empathy for the situation. He was handed an absolute...
Oh yeah, Donald Trump has it so rough. So rough.
Dumpster fire of a country, thank you, Biden. But turning your back on your stated principles and calling Americans dumbasses really was not the move. And I feel like, and maybe this is the stretch, but I feel like that should have been obvious. If you made it all the way to the end of this episode, thank you so much for watching.
You're not welcome. I hated that. But you know what? You guys might have liked my commentary. And if that is the case, please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and consider supporting the stream with subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc. Because folks, you guys make this stream possible. I could not do it without you guys. I do not take big corporate sponsorships. I take your guys' individual donos, and I very much appreciate each and every one of you that makes this stream possible day in, day out. I appreciate it to hell and back, and I think we're building something great together. Woo! So with that being said, let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, being plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff